Anyway, right, so I'm currently building the Lego Bonsai Tree. I've already built the first part. I probably should have thought about recording this earlier. I'm doing this today because I've been booted off Twitter because people can't take a fucking joke. And building stuff like this helps me relax, and I find it's fun. And I thought, once I'd finished the first one, why don't you record it? And that would have been a great idea if I'd started at the absolute very beginning, which I didn't. So, yeah, let's do this, I guess. So, I suppose I should elaborate as to why I got banned. I dropped the C-bomb on a friend's Twitter thread about... I should probably do this where you guys can see how just freaking incompetent I am. Dropped the C-bomb in a thread about Australian majors and how they would speak. I made a little joke about, I thought was a very clear joke about what an Australian wizard who summons a demon would say, which would be along the lines of, "Oi, cunt. Oi, you demon cunt. I'm going to fuck you right up unless you give me some grass powers. And if you don't, I'm going to beat you until I get a concussion." Which, yeah, look, swearing is all bad and terrible. I understand that I'm an evil person for swearing. I'm not going to apologise for it because, one, I don't fundamentally see anything wrong with swearing. It is one of the tools of language, especially the English language. And to sit there and say that, "Oh my god, somebody said the seabird," like, okay, cool. I'm sure someone's going to have some argument about misogyny and stuff like this. I'm going to call them ahead of time an anti-intellectual twerp for saying the C-bomb is misogynistic, because one of the earlier... crazy dude by the name of D.H. Lawrence, who I know everyone has heard of but absolutely no one has read, in a book called Lady Chatterley's Lover, another book famous for having never been read but everyone has very strong opinions on, actually has cunt in there. And the character that uses it says it is a affectionate vernacular term. Now, it's actually used in context. The dude character, whose name escapes me because I haven't read this book in about 20 years, says to Lady Chatterley, "You're a good bit of cunt." And she bristles at that. And he says, "No, it's not. I'm not saying it to be offensive. It's a vernacular term. It's like, when you call a dude a stud. Like, that is the context in which I mean it and used." And we can argue as to whether or not D.H. Lawrence is authentic in saying that is a vernacular usage. But it feels right to me. I find it very depressing that a lot of people find any crude expression of sexuality to be negative. Like, when you sit there and say, "I like to fuck," like, it's not taken as you're expressing a... Sorry, I'm doing this all off camera because I'm terrible at this shit. It's taken as a negative. Straight off the bat, which, okay, fine. Actually, who needs to do things professionally? I'm currently drinking Prosecco and building Lego while I complain about shit that happened on Twitter. Clearly, professionalism is not something I am deeply concerned about. Anyway, back to my rant about people who don't like swear words. It's just disingenuous to me. Because you are saying, unless you can express yourself eloquently, your sexuality is inappropriate. When you say that someone isn't allowed to say, "I like to fuck," or, just D.H. Lawrence's, "You're a good bit of cunt," you're making a value call on their sexuality. Now, maybe you don't mean to, Maybe, you think I'm going out on a limb here and casting a person that I do not know, that I would not know if they set me on fire, and whom, quite frankly, I probably wouldn't engage in a conversation with in any way, shape, or form. That I'm being a bit harsh to this anonymous person who probably meant well, but I don't really care. Because at the end of the day, my main social interaction with people is through Twitter. For a variety of reasons that, quite frankly, bore the shit out of me, so I'm not going to keep chewing over them over and over again. But at the end of the day, I basically have things like Twitter. I love trying to figure out exactly what the hell part I'm supposed to be looking for. Okay, that is a brown frog. I need everyone to acknowledge the fact that we have... Focus, come on. Will we focus? No, we're not going to focus. Oh, wait, there, what do we got? Anyway, that brown lump of turd is actually a frog, which sure. What do you reckon, dear friends in... Wait, is that the wrong one? Oh my god, tell me... There we go, okay. Yeah, this kid's already giving me a headache. It just strikes me as reductive. It strikes me as the politics of politeness, which is just another way of erasing people. As soon as you sit there and say that a person must express themselves in a singular manner to be taken seriously, or to be accepted at all as part of a dialogue, you have made not only a judgment call on their language, which I think is just 9 times shitty, you're making a very dangerous judgment call, because there's this whole bit about what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And, I'm not going to start arguing for or against the abolition of waterfowl. But it does strike me as particularly... Okay, so how does this attach? Aha! See, not just an idiot. There are other things going on here apart from just random ignorance. Not much more, I will admit to that. We're running on 50 kinds of random ignorance. I think this one needs to be constructed in reverse to the other one. Yeah. It's just exhausting, because effectively I've been kicked out of the pub for telling a joke that someone else objected to, a person who, as far as I can tell, fundamentally wasn't part of the conversation. Took it out of context and decided that big bad. It's just, I don't even know if I want to go back to Twitter, because it's just exhausting. It's not just the traditional ADHD struggle against everything you've got. It is legitimately exhausting for me to have to have I done this right? Of course you haven't. Why would you do anything right when you can do it wrong twice as fast? That would be where I went wrong. A classic mistake. I thought I knew what I was doing. It's exhausting. Between the recent death threats from a doctor, or the followers of a doctor, and people still want to sit there and pretend as a feminist and as a decent human being, and I'd like to just point out, not to start shit with a person who would probably sue me into dirt if somehow I don't think that's the way it's supposed to be. Why do I have two exactly the same? Very good question. Why do I have two exactly the same? Yeah, so I meant to build one the other. Hang on. Wait, what? I did... Okay, let's just pretend I know what I'm doing. I don't, but let's just pretend. It'll be fun. So we'll throw pieces on the floor. This is the traditional Lego experience. Uncensored, unedited. Just a stream of madness from a lunatic. That's why you're paying me the big money. Okay, so let's just attempt to reverse engineer this. Okay. So we're going to want this there. Okay, and then from there everything should flow, theoretically, if I'm not an idiot. Bad news, I am... Am I doing... See, this is the wonderful thing about having a not normal brain. Something simple like following instructions really does become a total kick in the dick. Not for any particular strong reason either. It's not because I'm an idiot or I have low intelligence. It's just that the things that make sense to other people do not make sense to me. And, quite frankly, never will. But that's okay. The world is full of boring as fuck people. They're 10 a penny. Buy them at any 7-Eleven, right next to the cold non-alcoholic beer, which, as we all know, is the best of all beers. It's not. That goes there. So, alright. See, occasionally I have these flashes of insight at which I know what I'm doing without actually having to look at the instructions, which trick me into believing that I actually know what I'm doing without looking at the instructions. But it's just sometimes I can look at something and pull it apart in my head, and it works. And other times it's like, what happened to my brain? Okay, have I gone too far too fast? Yes, I have. See what I mean? Okay, so that's all. Yeah. I'm loads of fun with IKEA furniture as well. Ain't nothing here but swearing and anger. But you already knew that. Also doesn't help I've been having a crisis of faith with my career. Being a chef at the moment isn't a lot of fun. Like at the end of the day. COVID sucked the fun out of my job. COVID sucked the fun out of living. But that's not it. It's like, my stepfather's dying, which, not surprising considering how old he is, and the fact that everyone dies. And he's an arsehole. Yeah, none of these are surprises. Shit happens. But I've sacrificed an awful lot to be a chef. I pretty much burnt every relationship I've ever had on the altar of being a chef. Rightly or wrongly. And whether or not you should do that is a decision best made between a person and a god, however they envisage God or gods or whatever the fuck's out there watching us scream and burn. And in the end, yeah, I'm one of the best chefs. I have been rewarded for my sacrifice. I am very good at my job. Maybe I just want to sell the world, get drunk, and that's it. Maybe that's what I want to do with my life, is I just want to sail the Pacific. And I can't as a chef because I'm never going to earn enough money to do that. And once again, it starts becoming a question of, well, what are you okay with? What are you okay with your life ending up being? Do you want more out of life? Do you want less out of life? And I think we've discovered where the first frog goes. Doo-doo-doo. There we go, frog cam. It's extremely bad because it's front cam. You know, like the questions of what do you want your life ultimately to mean, matter, be, like, and I don't have any, there aren't any answers to this shit. Like, it would be amazing if there were a whole bunch of trite answers in which you could say, without certainty, this is what life is supposed to be, this is how you're meant to live it, this is it. But anyone that says that that is the case is selling shit. There isn't any inherent meaning to life. Any meaning that the universe has is meaning that we've decided to give it. I kind of think that's awesome. I actually find that quite inspirational, that we can give meaning to the universe, that it is not an objective truth to be discovered. It is an agreed story. And there's people I know that are absolutely terrified by this and think it's the most horrific idea they've ever heard of. You know, not much can be done for people like that. Okay, so... I always find these Lego kits interesting as to the strange shapes they get to go together to be something completely different. Always strike me as slightly magical. Hence why I'm building a Lego kit when I am upset. I've only actually had one person in my entire life give me a Lego. It's kind of weird because we had a really fucked up and toxic relationship. And yeah, I think she was cheating on her boyfriend or her husband, and there were kids involved, and like the whole thing, just it's a mess. And the only defense I can offer is a really shitty one, which is I didn't know for sure that she had a partner, so, which, yeah, man, that's no excuse. You know, you suspect, you should treat your suspicion as reality in personal relationships like that. I mean, to do otherwise is to just be a really shitty human being. And, you know, newsflash, kids, guess who's a really shitty human being? Okay, so that one needs to go there. God damn it, YouTube, why didn't you tell me? Just sitting here giggling at me as I fuck up. Yeah. Wait, that's around the wrong way. But yeah, anyway. It's all just water in the bridge at the end. When it all boils down, very little in the long run ends up mattering. The decisions that you sweat nights over, wondering if you've done the right thing or the wrong thing or a thing. "15, 20 years down the track, it's just stuff that happened. You know, starts to take on the same intrinsic value and importance as the Battle of the Somme does in sitting here in 2020. It's like, yeah, okay, it's kind of, historically it's important, but in reality, who the fuck cares? And that in the long run is where a lot of your life ends up getting shoved in the big old pile of, you know, at the end of the day, who the fuck cares? And once again, that's okay. That's part of being a human being, is the stuff that is so important to you when you are young ends up being of no real value, no real significance. You know, and the stuff that had no value, that was throwaway, that you did because it was cool or it'd be funny or whatever. Yeah, I don't even know where I'm going with this. If you know where I'm going with this, please write your answer on the back of the postcard and mail it to somebody else. That is somebody else in your capital city. Locked bag. There is no locked bag. Yeah. Holy shit, what kind of crazy fuck ass is that? Alright, I need you all to look at this for a second. I'm not sure if you can see that well. Doesn't really matter, but I now get to twist a whole bunch of weird ass bits of plastic around this, so that it looks like the wire on a bonsai statue, which, alright, cool. I suppose that's what I signed up for. I did decide to build the bonsai kit. Can't really get upset when they start to expect you to make it look like a bonsai. That appears to be correct. 100%. If you're down in the comments raging at me as I make every single mistake, I just need you to know I never check my comments. 100%. Oh, cat invasion. Told you, we got invaded by a cat. That's just how this rolls. So this one appears to get jammed up in the business here. Sorry, there is a very large cat in the way. And wait, are they different? I am so confused right now. How do you have that? Okay, well, Lego, that's the best I can do with your really interesting instructions. So, let me get this straight. This clips onto here, like so, and then we jam this on there like so. Well, I suppose that's meant to look like the root system. And then we dump the entire thing. Wait, what? Okay, so... Okie dokie, well I guess we'll call that planted then. Cool. Okay, if you're wearing headphones, I apologize for the crumbling noises. Next instructions I think we're going to put off to the end, because it is pouring this bag into the bottom here. So, because of how clearly coordinated I am at building this thing, that can wait. And also fat caddy soy, so... Thank you, Tamali. Your presence is always needed. Okie dokie, and because it's me, I am going to put on the pink cherry blossoms. Because I like cherry blossom. And green leaves, boring. So, once again, if you were listening in headphones, I apologise. And here we go. These, like I said, green frogs. So oh, sorry, pink frogs. I know what colours are. I don't. Wish to explain to me that my humour isn't landing or whatever. Once again, I don't. I'm not really going to start now. This is just a place for me to have fun. And I kind of thought it'd be an interesting video. I don't know. We're up to 25 minutes and counting, and you're all still here. Well, somebody's here. I'm here. Alright, let's build this crazy fucker. This is probably not going to work on my channel at all, now that I think about it. We predominantly talk about cooking, so today you're going to upload a video that consists of building Lego. Well, geez, kids, if you weren't confused before, you probably weren't paying attention. So, ooh, what I have a feeling it's going to tell me to do this and then do it 94 times. If that's the case, I'm going to force you to sit here with me and go through it all. Oh. No. Show the instructions, but I'm recording this on my phone, hence the potato sound, potato vision. I'm sure I could probably figure out how to do it with something more sophisticated, but I don't really want to. As I said, I'm a chef. I'm not. And now we put the frogs on. I love that there appears to be a specific official Lego TM order to put the frogs on, and the frogs must be put on this way. If the frogs are not put on this way, you will be reported to control. Okay. Yeah, this feels slightly crazy to be putting frogs, pink frogs, on a bonsai cherry tree in a specific manner, because a bunch of people sitting in a design studio in wherever Lego's designed it. I believe it's Denmark. I could be wrong. That would require me to look at the box, and I don't really want to. Which is how most of my life boils down to. You should do a thing. I don't really want to. I think that's an excellent way to live your life, for the record. If you don't want to do something, don't do it. Ooh, now we put the pretty flowers, everywhere else? No, not everywhere else. Okay. So they gave us plenty of pink frogs, but not a large amount of actual cherry blossoms. I feel there's some sort of reasoning behind this that I'd like to understand, but I feel it may actually just be screaming. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those Cthulhu mythos types things that if you ever learnt the secret as to why the frogs have to go on a certain order and there aren't enough cherry blossoms on your cherry blossom tree, you would go mad. That construction is up here as goddamn mud. Stick it where you want. Okay, so this needs to get stuck there. Wait, it needs to go that way. The other thing is I've also got a very rare congenital condition called Mongo hands, which means making things like Lego, where it's small and precise work, doesn't really agree with me. Yeah. Give me something large and heavy, and I am good. Small fiddly, less so good. As I rush ahead, I keep getting this dreadful feeling that I'm about to make a terrible mistake and have to pull this apart again. That was actually a thought I had when I started recording this. I was like, why don't I just pull it apart and rebuild it? And I'm like, you know what? As much as I value verisimilitude, once again, don't correct my pronunciation. The English language is a piece of shit, and I don't really feel the need to speak it any better than I do. Plus, you'll remind me of my ex that used to cheat on me, and who was extremely abusive. Ah, man. I'll never forget my birthday in which she told me that she'd cheated on me, and then just proceeded to spend 4 hours describing exactly how the guy she cheated on me with, how they fucked. That was great. We lived together at the time, so there was nowhere else I could go. There was no car. I just had to sit there and listen to it. Good times, good times. But it's okay. It's very important to remember that Only men are bad. Especially if they decide they're not men. If you decide to be non-binary, we will proceed to beat the shit out of you. And I use the term decide because I know that's what that's the criticism. You choose to be your gender expression. Cool, fine, I don't really feel like fighting you for it. I chose to be this way. I chose to have autism. I chose to have to be Maori. All these things are things I chose to do. And I will agree with you because it makes me more powerful than you who are a victim of society, a victim of the world, being cast hither and thither upon the rough waves. I chose this because that is fundamentally how you will be treated. Well, fundamentally how I've been treated. I'm not overly bitter by things. I am, however, very exhausted by them. I find the majority of the things that I go through and the discrimination I find just exhausting. Because there are plenty of well-meaning people out there that literally say shit like, well, you chose this. You know, like, you don't like it when people get the shits with you because you've got ADHD, but you chose this, mate. You chose it. Like, I don't remember before I was born. I don't remember the questionnaire. So I can't really refute these maniacs that sit there and say I chose all this shit. So fine, I chose it. I mean, clearly they chose to be a boring dickhead. You know, the fact that I didn't choose to be a boring dickhead, it must be on me. Oh, now I get to make 3 more of these. Holy shit, I wish I'd been paying attention. Does that look right? That does not look. So I need to... Oh, God. Make 3 of these. Then make 3 more. Then start screaming. Oh, well. I definitely chose to make this Lego kit. But yeah, that is something I don't think non-marginalised people who are of the... people that are of the majority gender expression, that are of the majority sexuality, I don't think they really get, well, no, I know they don't get that they're not choices. Like, you don't wake up one day and go, you know what, I'd really like to have sex with a guy. I think I'd like to try that out, you know? And if I like it, I reckon I'll keep doing it. Like, that's how it works, man. Like, you just end up being sexually attracted to people that you're sexually attracted to. You just gotta hope and pray that they're not cisgender or they're not fucking... And yeah, I know it's meant to be pronounced cis. I don't give a shit. Psi to me is better because that's what they make you do. It's like... Thanks. I needed that. So, yeah, psi-gendered people are just exhausting. That being said, there is a certain type of... Wait, is that one going? No, no one goes there. There's a certain type of other person that I find exhausting. And it comes down to whiteness and white privilege. And it's just at the end of the day, white people are exhausting. They're just absolutely exhausting. I mean, I get it. Like, it must be hard to go through life when there's nothing new and exciting or special about your life. Like, when you are literally the default, that must be hard. But I don't care. Because what happens is, if you're a thing that is novel, you get treated like you are a thing that is novel. And that ain't fun. It ain't fun being someone else's experimentation. It is not fun being just something on someone else's bucket list that you cross off. Although I guess, at the end of the day, that's really all any of us are. Like, we are just items on someone else's bucket list to be ticked off. Oh, hey man, I got a redhead, I got a blonde, I got a Maori. You know? That's just how it is. It's kind of why I'd like to climb on a boat and just sail the fuck away from society. I mean, I'm sure it's wonderful. I'm sure society is great, and you all appear to have the time of your lives. Being on it and doing it and all that shit, like, you really do appear to be having fun, but I ain't having fun. There we go. 1 down, 3 to go, because fuck yeah. I'll just keep building this and crying, and eventually people will stop watching. That's not true. People love experiencing the vicariously experiencing other people's pain. I don't blame you. It's great entertainment, and if I didn't want to be here, I probably shouldn't have uploaded it to YouTube. Always becomes the question, isn't it? Is it voyeurism when the person asks you to watch? Wait, what have I done? That's what I've done. There we go, kids. 15 seconds into the next one, and we've already fucked it up. Amazing. That's going to be a new record. Restart the clock. Let's see how long it is until I next fuck up. Anyway, I'm not complaining. I've lived my life the best I can. I will continue to live my life the best I can. And it's not even worth doing like that whole Beatles long and lonely road, because that's just some white guy wanker. Like, at the end of the day, there are very few people that will stand with you. I don't really know what that says about society. I think it's always been the case. You know, like the whole singularity of man and disappointment at being on their own is a constant reoccurring theme in literature. So it kind of makes me wonder, you know, pretty much happens to everybody, doesn't it? Anyway, I think I mentioned earlier that I find this fiddly stuff frustrating. But because it's so frustrating and difficult for me, I actually get a fair amount of satisfaction out of doing it. You know, that whole, this is difficult for me. It takes a lot of effort and concentration, and I still did it. It's not that I want a cookie. It's just that, well, sometimes doing the difficult thing is the reward in and of itself. And sometimes we enjoy doing the difficult thing because it is the difficult thing. I'm getting a JFK on you all, isn't it? We choose to do the hard thing not because our accent is understandable, but because it is incomprehensible. We choose to do these things because they are hard, because Viagra has not been invented yet, and I almost feel for that guy. Almost. Like, JFK is a fundamentally tragic figure, but not for the reason that a lot of people have sympathy for him. I find him a fundamentally tragic figure because the dude was fucked up 9 ways from Sunday. Like, his constant philanthropy comes down to the fact that he was raised in an environment in which women were devalued. They were basically just, you know, commodities to be used. Famously, his sex life, you know, he was a two pump dump champion. You know, the few women that decided to talk about his sexual prowess basically said there's nothing to talk about. Right? he was at one point the most powerful man on the planet, and he was arguably the worst lay on the planet, which, you know, doesn't really put it all into context, but it does make you sit there and go, wow. And I think he must have known, like, regardless of how poorly he was raised to treat women and how little he may or may not have judged their think. I think fundamentally, deep down, that was one of the things that was truly, truly broken about JFK. That he knew he was shit at something that he did all the time, that was expected to take pride in his ability to fuck, and he was terrible at it. Like, he never, never satisfied a woman that ever fucked him. It's a bit like the tragedy of Marilyn Monroe being a sex symbol. It's the fact that, according to some of her confidants, she never actually experienced an orgasm. Like, all the people she slept with, all the encounters she had, and no one ever made her come. Kind of makes all the shit that I go through, all the shit that I experience, and most of the shit that other people experience, kind of fundamentally don't feel it's of great significance. Like, yeah, I'm sorry your parents died. I got to watch my dad die when I was 12. And I mean watch, he died in a veranda of a heart attack from a bee sting. I actually got to watch him die. I still remember the doctor coming to declare him dead. His doctor made a house call to declare him dead. It's deep, dark shit. And that's bad, and that fucks you up, because when that happened, I was of an age that your dad is kind of God. He's the most powerful man you've ever met. My dad was. He was physically impressive. He was doing something for his model trains, and he was drilling something, and the drill broke and drilled into his goddamn thumb. And it got jammed in the joint of his thumb and broke off. And it stuck out about 1.5 centimeters, and he waited until Mum woke up the next morning to say, could you drive me to hospital, with a fucking tissue wrapped around a drill bit in his thumb. He didn't sleep because it hurt too much. It hurt too much for him to sleep. But he stayed up, and he didn't wake up his wife because he didn't think it was that big of a deal. I mean, Mum was a nurse, so she was kind of used to some shit. But she went right off him, way out of line, etc. It's a fucking emergency, just fucking wake me up, etc., etc., etc. And he was like, well, yeah, it hurt, but like, not like more than anything else does. You all ever sit there and wonder why I'm so fucked up and crazy? That is the model of masculinity I was told to aspire to. Like, not just stoicism to make a Spartan go, whoa, slow down there, mate, you're acting a little bit crazy. But, like, the real deal, over the top fucking 1950s driver fucking... Another time in New Zealand, he was cutting firewood with a circular saw, and he hit a nail, and the circular saw jumped. And because this is my dad, he'd already disabled some of the safety features, and a few people in the audience are seeing exactly where this is going, and I assure you, you do not see where this madness is going. And so it jumped out of his hands, landed on the ground, and ran up and cut a huge boomerang into his calf. And so he went in to tell Mum what he did, and as he told the story, and as Mum verified, he actually took the pants that he was wearing off and hid them in the laundry because Mum had just bought them for him. and so they were his good pants that he shouldn't have been cutting wood in. And so, in spite of the fact that a circular saw had just ripped to the bone on his calf, he felt the need to hide the pants he was wearing in, because he didn't want his wife to know that he'd been doing yard work in his good pants and ruined them. The scar was huge. Like, even years later, it was 5-6 centimeters wide, and it ran from his ankle to his knee. He used to call it his boomerang, because that's how fucked up kids are. But yeah, fucking coffin nails have pictures of my dad up on their walls, you know, to inspire them to be tougher. And I was just a scared, weird kid. I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that I looked exactly like him, I'm pretty sure Dad would have had some serious questions about the exact provenance of where this weird son of his had come from. But to this day, I still look like his twin. I mean, tragically, I'm not as dark as him. His skin was that brown. Dad was dark. He was super dark. Caused him a lot of problems when he was a kid. He had skin like mahogany. Know exactly why my mum fell in love with him. But apart from my distinct lack of melanin, I look exactly like him. A bit taller. Same ludicrously perfect proportions. You know, like to think we've got different voices, but the fact that my older sister will only communicate to me via email lends me to believe that I also have my dad's voice, which, yeah. So many goddamn frogs. I would honestly like to sit down with the person at Lego and ask them, why the fuck are frogs? Like, how is a frog a more simple shape to make than the lotus blossoms? Surely they could have made the lotus blossoms in the right colour. I mean, I get they're trying to go for some not opened cherry blossom thing. Okie dokie, so now we proceed to plug these fuckers on. This, of course, it shall be easier said than done. On the bright side, everything is flexible. I suppose I should be grateful for that small design consideration. There's your problem. Can you see the problem, kids? I can see the problem, kids. Okie dokie. Now we slip this on there and nibble her ear. And dudes generally don't like having their ears nibbled. What you want to do is you want to suck on their neck a little bit. He said, theoretically, so I heard. According to the speculation down at the station house, you understand, this has nothing to do with personal experience. It is more a Yeah, whatever. Nobody cares.